Before we get started, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's interacted with this series so far in particular. We've had 3 episodes so far, 2 career mode wish lists and a leagues wish list. This will be the 4th, and then we've got another one to come after this. So thank you so much to everyone who's commented, suggesting improvements to different ideas, everyone who's liked, everyone who's subscribed to the channel in general, and in particular on the back of this series. I really appreciate it, and there'll be more to come in episode 4 of the career mode side of the wish list. I'll be referring back to and giving shout outs to people who've put forward ideas and looking to get that interaction over into the videos as well. So thank you so much for that, and hopefully it can continue. But looking ahead to the episode, hi guys, I'm Bromo18 and welcome to part 3 of my career mode wish list. Today we're going to be looking at the youth academy aspects of it. I know that is so popular, and finally we've gotten to it. We've alluded to it in past episodes, but finally we're going to be taking an in-depth look at it, and also player interaction as well and how that can be improved. But first, just a quick recap on episode 2 and what we talked about in that in terms of suggesting different ideas and new content. So in the second instalment we looked at facilities, and in particular the different elements of those. So training facilities was the first one, and how for one, training should be expanded to include the whole squad and not just a limit of 5 players, and the facilities could be requested to be improved by the board, and the better the facilities, the more efficient the training was. Then we looked at youth facilities that would impact on the progress of youth players. They'd expand your youth academy depending on how good they are. And then we were then leading into the youth academy in this episode, which is more to come on that. Then we looked at scouting facilities. Once again, they would improve the ratings of the scouts, the amount of scouts you could have on board, and also your scouting range as well. So the better your facilities, the wider your scouting range. You could send scouts all over the world, South America and Asia and places like that. And also corporate and stadium facilities. These were sort of merged into one. You'd have less control over that, but you could still request that they be improved nevertheless. Better corporate facilities would mean you could charge higher prices, and they would generate more revenue if either they were good or the club was performing well, etc. And then the stadiums, no, it can be expanded if you're constantly selling out. But then the board could reject those requests to expand the stadium if they feel like there's no point or they don't want to invest. New stadiums could also be built as well, if you maximise your stadium potential. And poor stadium facilities could result in how supporters could end up being unhappy and wouldn't go because the stadium isn't up to the standard it should be. And all of the facilities would be rated out of 10. So if you might start lower and you might have to work your way up, or if you're a team high on the table, someone like Barcelona and Man United, you'll find a lot of the facilities are already close to the top anyway and don't need a lot of improvement. But nevertheless, I thought this was good, and it was received fairly well as well. So hopefully that could be considered in the future, however unlikely that may be. So right off the bat, I think it's time to finally talk about Youth Academy. This is amongst the most popular of items in career mode. Lots of times we'll see people will do career modes dedicated purely to youth. The excitement you get when you find a regen, you find a Youth Academy product, potential 92 to 94, etc. And you grow them and they feel like your own player. That is one of the best elements of career mode, the most exciting elements. But the Youth Academy itself, the feature is very limited. It's time to move on. It's been the same for years now, and we need to see change. So first of all, I want to talk about the overall functionality of the feature and how it doesn't really work. What happens is you have a squad limit of 16 players. You'll sign one who you think is going to grow, maybe he's got 94 potential, etc. And either he'll stay at that potential and you'll probably bring him on, or if he doesn't, you'll just probably release him, and that's about it really. I think there needs to be so much more depth, and there should be so much more depth included in this mode. For a start, I believe the Youth Academy should be split into different age groups. Under 16s, under 18s, under 21s / under 23s. And what these age groups should all be doing is playing competitive matches. They should all have a squad limit, or a minimum squad limit of 18 players each. And then they should play, you know, the matches in their competitive youth division leagues, Youth FA Cup as well, which is a big thing. And then each age group should have a certain amount of staff, coaches and management. One, they will manage the team, but also they will feed you with regular reports, both on the team, on the players and their progress, development, etc., performances. And what to do, you can choose, you know, it doesn't have to be forced on you. You can go into the youth academy setup and then choose to go through it in a detailed manner if you want, or scan through it. And what this will do is, it just, one, it's a more realistic representation, but two, it just adds another dimension to the mode, you know. And I keep saying this phrase over and over again, but it's what needs to happen, really, because it's so lacking of any real expanded content, really. You know, this will prolong the whole thing more. It's going to make people more interested in wanting to, you know, drive the development forward of their players, and make it so people have something more to delve into the mode and to make sure they don't lose interest in career, which is what happens ever so often. Staying on that subject of youth academy, I want to talk about youth facilities, which is what I mentioned in episode 2 of this series. Basically, the thought was that it would be from level 1 to 10, and obviously you could, you know, improve it with requested a board, or they might, you know, go out their way to improve it themselves. What should be the case is, as is in real life, is that, you know, different teams have different youth levels from the youth category that they're in. So for example, a lot of League 2 sides might be a lower youth level, so as a result they only have one age group, really. They have under 18s, and then nothing around that, really. Whereas if you're a team like Man United, you've got a big global reach, you got high emphasis on youth development. You're going to have squads at every age group, you know, right the way from maybe under 5s all the way to under 21s, under 23s, etc., and then into the first team. So I think this should be the case here as well. And as you improve your youth facilities, your youth level will go up, and you can have more age groups and squads in those age groups, and more coaches, etc., as well. So yeah, you know, I think if career mode and youth academy in particular were to have a revamp, this is the way they should go. And you know, they need to add more depth to it, because this is one of, as I keep saying, the most popular parts of career mode. So just to recap on that, the features of my suggested improvements would be different age groups for each segment of the youth academy: under 18s, under 21s, under 23s, under 16s, etc. More than a 16 player limit, which is what you usually get. Each squad should have a minimum of 18 players to fill out the first team and the bench. Each squad should also have coaches and management staff, and those coaches and management staff can give you regular reports on the progress of each player, the progress of the team, the development, and how they're playing and performance wise. And also each age group should be playing competitive games as well, in leagues and also cup competitions like the FA Youth Cup. And one other thing that I need to mention is that generally a young player will get to the age of 17 or 18 in FIFA and then demand that either you sign them or they will leave. This just isn't the case. That's not how it works at all. You know, 17-year-olds are not going to be putting themselves on the front foot like that. Very rarely happens. I would say 1 in 50,000 people would do something like that. But it happens all the time, and that's why, again, you need the different age groups, because then if they're progressing up to the 21s and 23s, they're not going to be looking to go away, because they're still, you know, part of the setup and part of the of any competitive games, really. So that brings me nicely onto the other subject of today's suggested improvements, and that's player interaction. And I think generally there needs to be a wider range of player interaction options available in career mode, because there's essentially none. Basically, the furthest it goes is, let's say for example, if a player comes to you and talks about his unhappiness, says maybe you've not been playing him in the first team squad, and you know he wants to play, you can either play him or just don't put him in the squad. And that's it really. Occasionally they might request a transfer because nothing changes, but only occasionally. Sometimes they'll just sail off into the sunset whilst they're still in your club earning a wage, and that's it really, unless you actively choose to sell them. So nothing really has been done on that front. How I personally feel it should be done is that if a player comes forward to you, the manager, and talks about how he's unhappy at the club, you should then be able to discuss that with him. You should have a range of different options, talking about what can be done about it, how can it be improved. Is it a location problem? Is it maybe a problem with his teammates? He's not in any sort of group. He's an outcast. Maybe he wants first team football, and what can be done about that? Maybe if he's unhappy in terms of homesickness, you can put forward to maybe bringing a player from his nation in to help him settle, or give him time off leave. Or if he's unhappy in the first team squad, you can suggest maybe you're part of my long-term plans, you're just not part of the short-term option, maybe you should go out on loan and come back, etc. And I think this sort of thing needs to be in there. This is a vital part of football. We see all the time players unhappy and wanting to move. Most recently we saw Virgil van Dijk who went to Southampton as of recording this. He's been unhappy for a long time at Southampton because of Liverpool wanting to come into him, come in to sign him even, and there was a lot of friction between. He weren't training with the first team squad for a long time, and finally he's got his move. And I think that needs to play a part now in FIFA. That has to be the next logical step. Another element of player interaction which I feel should be included in the game is the ability to talk to your players just in general at any point of the season, maybe praising their recent form or criticising their recent form, or praising the way they've been on the training ground or their position in the squad, etc., or criticising that maybe. Again, and this might impact on their performances, this might impact on their attitude. Maybe if you've criticised their form and they feel they've been playing well, that causes some sort of friction in the dressing room, and that has an impact on the squad as well. These little things can have a massive difference in career mode. Maybe they get the dressing room on side for them, or you get the dressing room on side, and that sort of thing will play out how it plays out. But again, this is something that needs to come into career mode and should be part of the rest of the player interaction options that I've brought forward as well. And it would be interesting to see this and how people in general deal with this. I know that a lot of people would maybe take the fear me sort of route, or other people try to be understanding, and that's just really interesting. That adds something else to career mode that is lacking. And there's a common theme amongst these wish lists, and I'm talking about how career mode is lacking and how it's stagnating. And I think that's a real problem here, and that's why one of the reasons why career mode is coming in for a lot of criticism from the fans towards EA Sports, and how the development has remained less than impressive in terms of the amount of resources being pumped into it. So that more or less rounds up episode 3 of this career mode wish list. Today we talked about youth academy and player interaction, how there needs to be a lot more added there. Next episode I'm going to go on to financial management. That'll be one of the final subjects, and then I'm going to also talk about the suggested improvements in the comments. And there's been some good ideas that people have suggested, so I'm going to include them and give you shout outs, and then just an overall conclusion as well and thoughts, because there's things I want to talk about which I think a lot of people, the fans, are seeing, but it's needs to be spoken out really. So we'll talk about that as well in episode 4. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, which by now you probably should have, because I've linked back a lot, go back and watch them, episode 1 and 2. They'll be linked at some point in the video, and also on the side I imagine as well. I've got a leagues and divisions wish list also, so go and check that out, along with my Bristol Rovers career mode save. 5 episodes out so far as I've recording this, maybe more if you're watching this in the future. But yeah, on that note, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe if you've enjoyed the content, if you want to see more, and like as well. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike and tell me what I can do to improve. I'm always open to rooms for improvement, constructive criticism, etc. So all is welcome, and thank you once again for watching. I really appreciate it. I've been Brom18, and I'll see you soon.